And over! Edwards scores from third!
Hey, Fish fans, this holiday season, share the joy of baseball with the Marlins Holiday Bundle. It starts on opening day, which is already included. That's on Thursday, March 26th, against the Colorado Rockies. Then pick a marquee game like the Phillies, the Mets, or the Dodgers coming to town and add up to 3 Tier 2 games for even more family fun. And because it's the season of giving, you'll get a special discount on a customized City Connect jersey. Make memories that last. Visit marlins.com/holiday today.
How about that production as we welcome in the manager of the Miami Marlins, Clayton McCullough, Steven Strom here, Jack McMullen. What do you think about the production elements, Mr. McCullough?
I love that. I got fired up there, seeing some highlights and hearing the music and Lone Depot rocking. You got me going here in early December.
Well, we're so pumped to have you. And Jack, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, are you rolling with the Lone Dome? Are you coining that? Have you worked on trademarking that or no?
I don't know. I guess that did. I didn't even really, I kind of said it off cuff. I think it just, you say things around the clubhouse or out there, the Lone Dome. And then I think I had it come out in one media session and then, well, now it's the Lone Dome. So I don't know if I can take full credit for it. But it had a good ring to it, I guess, at the time.
It's amazing to watch some of those highlights because you can feel, I don't know if it feels long ago. I don't know if it does for you. I don't know if it does for Jack, but all of those highlights bring back some incredible memories of what was an awesome year. Clayton, 79 wins. And I know you don't want me to mention this, but you did finish 5th in Manager of the Year for that award. I know you don't care about that, but I guess I want to first start here, and I hope you had a great Thanksgiving with you and the family. I describe this season as the innocent climb, where there wasn't a ton of expectations. You guys came in every single day. You guys formed an identity, and you guys, I think, surprised a lot of people this year. Going into the offseason, what is required to take the next step, and how does that define for you?
Yeah, Steven, that's a great question. That's probably the one thing that is on my mind more than anything else at this point. And if I have, anything that keeps me up at night is we're not guaranteed to just have a better year just because we did what we did last year. And hey, we finished strong. And, there were a number of individual players that were certainly proud of the progress that they made. And I think collectively we set out last year to really just try to get better, right? To try to raise our floor. And so the fact that we were able to do some nice things and you said maybe exceed some expectations from the outside. It's no guarantee that, hey, next year we can pencil in, a 7, 8, 9 win improvement from this just because. And so the sense of urgency that I believe our group had last year, and not only within the games, but how they prepared and how they worked, how our staff approached things, the relentlessness that I think our team kind of became somewhat identified by was, how they just, never gave up. Those are things for me that we can't stray from that. I think those are really important core parts of what is going to hopefully continue for our group to keep getting better and to win more games. Is that we're going to go into next year still as an underdog. Maybe we're projected to win a few more games than we were projected before last season, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be the teams that are going to be forecasted to have the big years, and that's fine. So I think that we're going to just continue to keep our head down and understand that our path to continuing to trend in an upward trajectory is going to be through our own improvements, improving our processes, our players getting better, and us approaching each game with that relentless mentality to just focus on, trying to find a way to win that one and not getting too caught up in, what we think September may look like.
Clayton, a huge part of your job, a big chunk is being an effective communicator with some of the best people on the planet at what they do. And you mentioned the strides that so many players made for you. You look at that 26-man roster at the end of the year, you could say that 10 to 15 of them had the best baseball year they've ever had, doing it at the highest level. How do you communicate to those guys leaving for the offseason, hey, we need to push towards making that the bedrock. We need to build off of that. Is there a way that you can communicate, let's build from where you finished 25?
Yeah, Jack, I think a big part of that was we have met with almost every player on our 40-man roster and gone through player plans, with them. Carson Vitale, Bryson Nakamura really, spearheaded this project of sorts. And we felt it was incredibly important to, take a holistic approach. We, medical is included, strength and conditioning, and including also maybe their skill specific coaches, but that, hey, look, there's going to be some goals this offseason. We're going to try to keep it as simple as we can, but try to give them a clear path in which to have focus for this offseason. And as you said, you're not guaranteed anything from one year to the next. And I believe our players appreciate, look, most of them haven't had the easiest path, to get here. And so you realize how quickly the rug can be pulled out from under you if you aren't always striving to get better. So we felt it was, look, what we can do is set out 4 goals for each player that we felt are most important right now to put them in a good position to build off of, certainly what they had done last year, but then also to try to springboard that into a more productive 2026.
It's a great way to open up this discussion too, Jack, because there were so many guys that, had amazing years that, again, not a lot of people thought not only could they play at this level, but could they put together the season they did, Kyle Stowers being one of them. And Clayton, I did want to ask you, because there's been some stuff that has been swirling around about extensions, Kyle Stowers, Yuri Perez. I don't want to dive into too much personal information, but how exciting is it and how important is it for this organization to build off that excitement from last year?
Yeah, certainly. I think it speaks to what we feel is like a really budding group of young players that have the chance, we believe, to, be part of us making this a consistent winner. And so I think the one thing I feel like we'll definitely have more of in 26 than we had before 25, with some clarity going into, this spring training with, pieces of the roster, maybe even what we can somewhat kind of expect from them. And look, we don't know what's going to happen health-wise. We don't know what's going to happen transactionally between now and then. But I think we can look at some of the strides that you mentioned, Stowers, and you mentioned what Marcy was able to, what he was able to do at the end, just to name a few that have come up that we can, somewhat that, kind of pencil them in, health permitting, that we're counting on them to, take some further steps, but that are the amount of players that we also have coming through our minor league system, the amount of depth we've been able to acquire and develop. So the exciting part is we feel like we have a really good, young group of players that are only going to get better, also with, players that are behind them that are continuing to put themselves in position to either take down meaningful innings or meaningful plate appearances for us next year.
Clayton, you care about these players as people so deeply, and you spend so much time around the guy for 8 months, 9 months. For the conversation, Stowers is an example, but plenty of other guys, and it seems like the Marlins fan base wants so-and-so extended and so-and-so extended. For the conversation to shift from, am I on the team on opening day, to what does an extension look like? How does that make you feel for these guys, the guy?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's that part of it. There is a business side of what we're doing here as well, right? And, we talk to our players a lot about, look, we're trying to get you. I mean, why we preach so much about development and getting better is ultimately like you perform more consistently and you perform at a higher level on the field. Like monetarily, you are going to at some point get rewarded for that as well. And you have the opportunity to, provide some security for yourself and your family, which is important to people and important to players, and also winning. And those things aren't mutually exclusive. So like, it's important for us. Like we're trying to, for the team, you get into a position where you are, have the opportunity for some of these things to come your way is, we think, a great thing, because, it's good for you. It's shown that not only on the field what you're able to do, but also probably more importantly, the type of teammate you are. And you have to, you're having to bet on the person as much as you are just the individual skill ability when you're talking about wanting to, potentially have someone, over a long period of years.
Clayton McCullough with us now, and we have a lot more bases to cover. I did want to get into some of the offseason chatter about positional changes and maybe starters going to the bullpen going to. Could you share any of that? Is there anyone that comes to mind that you've had discussions with about, hey, we preach versatility here and optionality. We think that we want you to potentially be ready to play this position.
Yeah, I have had some of those conversations with some individuals, and right now more on the position player front. And I think, like, before diving into this, the specific people, it was like, it's important for me and for us organizationally that the more optionality, as you mentioned, a player can have, it's beneficial for me. The amount of in-game maneuvering that can take place. I mean, we saw how valuable Sonoha was for us with his ability to kind of go anywhere at any given time. And so it gives me a lot of freedom within games to make maneuvering that I think is tactically advantageous for us to win, and for the player. The more spots that you can go to, it's a way to keep yourself in the lineup with more regularity. And that's really the only way that you can, put up the type of, performance numbers you want, is to get out there and be able to play. So, Connor Norby is one I've spoke to. And look, and I'll say this first, that believe that Connor, can play third base. And we've challenged him this offseason to continue to, that's where your focus needs to be, Connor. Come in, compete, and win the third base job next year. And also, it's nice that you have some history of playing the outfield in the past. And that may be something that this spring that we look to, dive into a little bit. And so he's athletic enough, and Connor's a team guy. He wants to be on the field. He wants to help us win. And does that mean that Connor's going to be an everyday outfielder? That's not what I'm saying. Does that mean he'll ever play in the outfield? I don't know. But I think that we can, put some of those things out there, talk to Griff about maybe getting some work at first base. And, the big part, one I love is most of our guys, when I have those conversations with them, they're like, okay, if that's going to help you and it's going to help our team, I'm all in. I'm all for it. So they're all about the right things. And I tell them too, I don't know if this is going to, end up playing out. Okay. I don't know what the roster is going to look like in spring training. I don't know what the roster is going to look like April or May. So many things are fluid during the season. But if you're open-minded enough to, give it a shot, it just, again, is going to give you as a player potentially more avenues to stay in the lineup. And it allows me a whole lot more flexibility and maneuverability within games. So those guys have spoken to. I mean, the outfielders sometimes are easier. Hey, you might play right or left. I think those are is not as much as it is when a guy maybe goes from the dirt to the grass, or hey, we might ask you to go from the grass into the dirt.
So much has been made about the youth on this team, and obviously you have a ton of experience in your time in LA working with veteran players. And everybody knows about your relationship with Mookie Betts. That is a needle in a haystack type of situation for a Gold Glove right fielder to make the pivot to shortstop when he's already at his stage of in his career. I am curious, from your perspective, is it easier to have these conversations with younger guys, with guys that are trying to find their footing in the big leagues and really thrive?
I think what's made some of these conversations easier is that the era that they've come up in, that it's become more the norm, where it's become more in vogue, so to speak, to, wear some different hats or have different gloves in your bag, that it's not, very few guys are just going to be penciled into the same position for their entire, 10, 12, 13, year career. That a lot of organizations have been, pushing this. You've seen how it's been able to, impact players' value. I think about guys like Kike Hernandez, who are over there, and Chris Taylor, and guys that have really made, incredible careers because of their ability to bounce around. So I think players understand more now that it's not a knock on maybe what you can't do, as that ability to be, again, flexible and provide some optionality for the club and yourself is advantageous for you as a potential earner.
Well, it's going to be nice to see the players from last year be here at spring training, because I know this year for Jack and I, we were like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? We are going to get a couple of who's that's, Clayton. It's going to be a couple of coaches. And before we get to Corbin Day, Chris Hess, Craig Driver, etc., I did want you to give us a little bit of, what guys like Derek Showman, Tyler Smarslock, and Who else we got? Joe Singley and
Singley,
Chichi Gonzalez and what they provided for your first year.
Yeah, I mean, you always hate to see they were outstanding. They were a huge part of, what we were able to do last year. And I think, culturally what we were able to try to start to get put into motion. And you hate to see people that you spend, so much time with and you know what a quality job they did depart. So on the one hand, though, I do see it as a good thing for the Marlins, like that, when other teams are calling and asking for permission to talk to your staff members, and this was certainly a very active offseason with the number of positions that were open, it's a good thing. I mean, I think it shows that we had identified some really talented people and were able to, put them in a position and a place to grow as coaches. And happy for them that they got opportunities that they felt right now was a real step in their career trajectory, and a ton of confidence in the group that we're bringing in. You mentioned some that we're going to come in and believe they're going to make an incredible impact, the same that the staff members that we had last year that are no longer here did.
So I don't want to put this comp on you, but thinking about college football, we were just talking about the whole Lane Kiffin situation before we hit the record button. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, those are guys that have expressed this sentiment when they have coordinators, quote unquote, poached for head coaching jobs. When their coordinators move on to head coaching jobs in the Power Five elsewhere, they view that as an almost badge of honor. Do you feel that in a certain sense where your assistant hitting coach just became a lead hitting coach, where you had two field coordinators come from your staff this past year?
I think I view this much differently now than I did, say, 9 or 10 years ago. I remember, when in player development role with LA and a lot of staff members, you bring in and you feel like you have something good going, and now guys are getting jobs elsewhere. And it's like, man, you're kind of frustrated, right? Like all we're doing is interviewing, hiring, and onboarding. And then it was like, you know what? This is actually a really good thing. I mean, this is ultimately, like, for the staff member, we have an obligation to try to help them grow and become better and allow them to be in a position where if these opportunities do come, that they're ready for them. And you know what? That's the way this game goes, and guys take jobs. And then, you know what? It's our job now to go either try to continue to develop those ones that we have internally or go bring in some from outside places to, and run the cycle over. So I'm very happy for them. And I hope that, we continue year after year to have our phones ringing for our staff members to go, interview and be in positions, whether that be, our major league staff members or, even those that are down, in our player development system, because I think that shows a real strength of your organization, that people are taking notice a little bit of what you're doing and, in some small way want people that are a part of that.
Got a couple more left with Clayton McCullough. Can you tell us a little bit about Chris, Corbin Day, Craig Driver, and Harry Winowski?
Yeah, I think that you're going to love Chris and Corbin there coming in to round out our hitting crew. And we had spoke about this many times last year. We were going to want to add a third hitting coach. Just like the demands of that job right now are so intense. I mean, with the game planning, with 13 hitters at a given time that all kind of maybe need a little something differently, with the amount of data that we're getting, you're tying in biomechanical data. So there's just so much on a hitting staff's plate, and looking at this more as a strong team. And we love Pedro as like the leader of our hitting group, and Chris coming over from the Boston Red Sox, and he has a lot of experience with some of their really young talented players that made their way through that system, and now we're in the major leagues. And he speaks a lot of the same language that we do. He loves plate discipline and challenging practice environments and the way to try to problem solve. So it's very much, he's in lockstep, I believe, with what we care about, but also he's going to bring his own spin on some things that'll help our department grow. And Corbin Day, this guy just full of energy, young last year on the Minnesota Twins staff, going to take more of an active role in the hitting space this year with us. But we believe both of those guys are going to be stars, and probably in a very short amount of time, people will be calling, wanting to talk to them as well. So we're excited what they can do, teaming with Pedro to take our offensive group and continue pushing forward. Everybody loved Chichi. Cheech was great. I mean, to go off the mound, from being a pitcher, then to just, I remember this guy showing up in January last year, strapping on the gear, trying out as a bullpen catcher. And you could see that there was no ego there, being bilingual, the experience of being a starter, reliever, been in different organizations. Cheech was a big asset for us. So, tough loss there. But, to have, we're able to, to backfill that with, we think some very, talented, hardworking, eager, individuals that are going to do their part and grow and learn and be real great teammates.
Clayton, one familiar face I want to get to. Baseball operations department saw a couple of notable promotions, one of which Gabe Kapler was elevated from assistant general manager to general manager. This is a guy that you have spoke so highly of in the last year in Miami. You feel like he is, a huge influence on who you are as a manager. For a former manager, former big league baseball player to be the GM, what does your relationship with Gabe look like on a day-to-day basis? How do you guys communicate? And what does this mean going into 26?
Yeah, I imagine, Gabe certainly has earned this promotion and elevation to general manager with the work that he's done here over the last couple of years. And so many of the, initiative systems that have been put in place from the major league level down, Gabe has certainly been in the middle of a lot of that action. And so, yeah, fortunate that, I think back to, 10 or 11 years ago, when I first got the chance to work with Gabe, it was a real turning point for me professionally, and how much Gabe has helped me. And he was around our team a lot last year. He was around our staff a lot, went on a lot of road trips. So I'd imagine that it'll be, very similar in our communication and, the involvement with Peter and the rest of our front office with, how we continue to try to look to build out the roster heading into spring. And then once we get into the season, the day-to-day transactional items and, or anything, Gabe just brings a very unique perspective, as you mentioned, from, he's been a player. He went to coach, went back to playing, managed in the big leagues, been a farm director, been in the front office. So he has a lot of different experiences to pull from. He's been around a lot of different organizations. And so it's always nice when Gabe sits down, because he's going to ask you questions. He's going to challenge you, which I think is a very healthy thing for all of us to be a part of.
Frankie Polari, Vinesh Kanthan, and Gabe Kapler all promoted in the offseason. Okay, two quick ones for me. You went to the Dominican Republic. You visited the academy out there. But I got a question for my guy, Gus. Augustin Ramirez has been on Instagram. He's been working out. He looks great. Did you see Gus? What can you tell us about how his offseason is going?
Yeah, I did. I had the chance to go down there for 3 days. It was amazing. And Gus was there working out one of those days. And he's been a regular visitor to our academy in the DR, and he looked great. And not only did he look great, but just the way he was speaking and how he was able to reflect on. He went back even before the start of last year, and and he was very self-aware of. He was working hard, but I at some points you have to kind of go through a season to realize, there's going to be a different level of, detail I need to put into my work, for what's ahead. And now that he knows that, he really was down there, working very hard on his blocking and his receiving. And you mentioned Craig Driver earlier. Craig was able to get down there for a day and spend a session with Gus, which is going to be huge. You guys are going to love Drives. He's very intelligent. He's going to bring a lot. But Augustine is not backing away or shying away from this challenge. And we believe that Augustine is going to be, a very good catcher in this league for us, and still see him that way right now. And he's doing everything in his power to put himself, in a position this offseason to be better than he was when he left, at the end of last season. So I can let everybody out there know that's listening that Gus is down there. He's working, and he's really invested in making this thing happen.
Boots on the ground journalism, Jack. Clayton McCullough.
That's huge. Yeah, it's important. How was the visit to the DR as a whole, though? That had to be great.
Yeah, it was. Our academy is beautiful. It really is. It's what the work that Jay Lastly and Johnny Bloom have done. It was so much energy, and I know I talk a lot, but I'll say this: I've been probably almost 25 times that was, I'd been a lot. I love going down there, right? The passion, the pureness of baseball that you get to experience, the energy that's down there. And the highlight for me this trip was taking my son, and to have him be able to come down and experience those 3 days with me, stay on site, be at a baseball field all day, watch watch the action in the weight room, out on the fields. He's coming down in the cage. We mess around a little bit, and he runs back up, do his thing. And it was really the amount of conversations they're having, building on leadership, and our guys learning how to be great teammates. So it wasn't just ground ball after ground ball and swings. There was a really holistic approach to, our young men improving in all facets.
We are also a week away from the winter meetings. I'm going to prepare you for the media jackals, Clayton McCullough, because I got your back. I'm beyond a radio broadcaster. Last year, you were asked, what individual were you really excited to work with? Here's what you had to say last year.
I'm really excited about Edward Cabrera. And again, just had the chance for the last few years, a few opportunities where, you're competing against him, and just kind of know what guys, in those hitters meetings, they weren't fans of having to, kind of go up there and take that at bat. And, again, it's young, great stuff. Like, there's so much more in the tank there. And, so I think he's a really exciting one for me, just because the upside is so big, and I feel like, hey, it's gonna, not everybody's path to success is linear, right? And so, but it's real ability that can, win major league games.
8-7, a 5.3 or 3.5 rather ERA, 137 and 2/3 innings, 150 punch outs, 26 starts. You nailed that one. Who's our guy for this year? Who are you really excited for in 2026?
All right, can I do two?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think one. I think the Major League Comeback Player of the Year next year is going to be Sandy Alcantara. And I think, if Edward was my pick to click last year, this year my pick to click is going to be Otto Lopez. I think Otto Lopez is going to shine again defensively, the base running, and offensively, I really believe that Otto is going to take some continued strides and I think this guy's going to have a really big year all around.
I approve,
Jack.
Love both of them.
I approve. All right, Clayton. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for taking the time in the middle of your off season. Have fun at the winter meetings. It's in Orlando, so it's not too far of a trip over there. Enjoy it. I know we'll talk before the holidays, but we appreciate you again as always for jumping on with us.
All right, Steve and Jack, great to catch up with you guys. Thanks.
Coming up next, love it or leave it. But before that, here's a message from us. Well, it's that time of the year, folks, the holiday season. You want to nail that gift for that special someone, and I've got the perfect one for you. Forget the jewelry. How about experiences? How about some memories? The Marlins Holiday Bundle. First thing that you get is opening day tickets, March 26th, Marlins and Rockies. How can you forget what happened last year for the Marlins? Kyle Stowers walked off. You had to be there. You can be there, though, this year. Second thing, you get to choose one marquee matchup, Phillies, Mets, LA Dodgers have won back-to-back World Series championships. You can attend one of those games as well. And I'm not done. How about on Saturdays at home? The Marlins are wearing some fire, that City Connect jersey. You can customize it yourself at a special discounted price. So those are three things that you get with the bundle. Don't wait. Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Bundle today at marlins.com/holiday.
Hey, Marlins fans, the 2026 season is right around the corner, and the Fightin' Fish are primed to make this one a memorable year in South Florida. Building off of an exciting 2025, the Marlins will look to make some serious waves in 26. Join us at the ballpark on opening day when the Fish host the Colorado Rockies on Thursday, March 26th. Opening day tickets and single game tickets for all 81 Marlins home games are now on sale. Just head to marlins.com/tickets and make sure you're there.